Good morning, everyone. I want to cover filling of vacancies and bids and rebids today. My name is Dale Danker. I'm the president of TW Local 514 here in Tulsa. And got Kendall Anderson in here with me, Al Ball, Marla Johnson, Linda Deal to help try to answer questions or possibly to keep me on the straight path. Filling of vacancies is a long article. It kind of repeats itself after you read a couple of them. It talks about vacancies and it talks about how you fill the vacancy, and it repeats for every classification in the M&R book and repeats for every classification in the MLS book. So this is going to be if we read all of it, it's going to be a heavy read. So we might read a few of them till we kind of explain how it's going to the changes, because the changes are the same for every classification. So good morning. Let me put my glasses on and we'll get into this. It'll be exciting. Number 9, Article 9, filling of vacancies. It's Article 9, like I said, in every book. And it's repeating myself. If you will subscribe to this channel up here, and if we ever get over 1,000, which it sounds like might take a while, we'll have a few more options available to us to communicate with you through the means of live streaming YouTube. So here we go. Hang on. Let's have one more cup of coffee. I think it'll make it that much better. Or one more drink of coffee. All right. First one up, it says inspector vacancies. Candidates for inspector vacancies who do not hold inspector seniority will be required to meet the qualifications list in Article 8 qualifications. So what does that mean, inspector seniority? When before we had Title I seniority. So inspector seniority, a couple of things. It has the Javits list. When Javits put the two groups together, TW and the IM, had the super seniority for bidding shift and days off, and anybody that became an inspector after the Javits list, and that's another what if, was the Javits list in June something 15th, 2017, when he took all the appeals and made adjustments to the list, or was it December 27th, 2016, when he drew the line in the sand and actually put people on it? And then the appeals came and it rearranged. People might have came on, might have went off. Then he created the final. So I do not believe that from December 27th, 2016 to June 15th, 2017, if you became an inspector in that time frame, I don't believe they're going to afford you the rights to have the super seniority. But the inspector seniority list and any other list that we talk about were people that was prior to Javits and people that came after Javits. It's still one list. There's just some differences of where you're at on the list. So inspector vacancies who do not hold inspector seniority will be required to meet qualification list in Article 8 qualifications, which is the one right before this. You can go there and read inspector and find out what it takes to become an inspector. Number 2, employees first awarded an inspector vacancy shall hold the job on a trial basis for a period of 90 workdays, excluding all classroom training. Excluding. So if they send you to classroom for 2 weeks, does that part of your 90 work days? No, it is not. Excluding all classroom training required for their position in order to demonstrate their ability to perform the required work. Number 3, all employees first awarded in inspector vacancies will have their performance evaluated prior to the last day of their trial period. Prior to the last day. That doesn't mean the day before. It just means at some point before your last day. Employees who fail to meet performance expectations will be returned to their previous bid area and shift. Filling inspector vacancies, paragraph B. We're on page 42. Inspector vacancies shall be awarded in the following order. This is the important piece of every one of these filling of whatever vacancies. This is the order of who has a shot at it. So number one, inspector vacancies shall be awarded in the following order. That's very important. Awarded in the following order. A, the senior employee working as an inspector who bids the vacancy from another bid area or station. Ding, ding, ding. There's a change. So the senior most employee in the whole AA system, doesn't matter if it's in Tulsa, doesn't matter if you're sitting in LAX, they put a bid up in Chicago for an inspector. Everybody that's currently an inspector will have first shot at that opening with their inspector classification time. Harla, do you agree I said that right?
Yes.
Kendall?
Yes.
Okay. So inspectors go first. B, if no inspector fills it, then B happens. The senior employee utilizing AMT basic classification seniority working as an AMT tech crew chief, AMT crew chief, or an AMT bidding the vacancy who meets the qualifications. So B means that those three, tech crew chief, and AMT, get second shot at it with their basic classification date. Not a crew chief that's on Javits list, not a crew chief with his crew chief time, his basic classification date, which would have been our OC time. Meaning that if you're a cleaner right now and you fall under the cleaner seniority letter and you go to OSM, then you get your A and P eventually, and you come up to being an AMT. For those cleaners that fall on that cleaner seniority list, your basic classification time will be when you hired in as a cleaner, which will be what you know as OC time. C, senior employee utilizing AMT basic classification seniority bidding the vacancy from an M&R collective bargaining agreement who holds AMT seniority but is working in another classification who meets the qualifications. So if at some point in time I went over to AMT or any other grouping that allows you to have AMT time, like the cleaner seniority letter, but then you leave AMT and you go work in another M&R collective bargaining agreement, you can compete, your third to compete for that opening with your AMT clock time. D, the senior employee bidding the vacancy from the M&R collective bargaining agreement who does not hold AMT seniority but is working in another classification who meets the qualification. E, the senior employee bidding the vacancy from another association agreement, which would be the MLS, MCT, MTS, that holds AMT seniority or employees in a stability period who meet the qualifications. And F, the senior employee bidding the vacancy from another association agreement who meets the qualifications. The earliest basic classification seniority date will be used to determine who is senior for the purpose of awarding the vacancy. And then G, any other employee or new hire. Kendall, Marla, Linda, want to add anything to that?
So I want everybody to notice that we are going back to seniority, which is a good thing on a lot of these bids. And they'll see more of it in the crew chief section.
Okay. AMT Tech Crew Chief vacancy, paragraph C. Candidates for AMT Tech Crew Chief vacancies who do not hold an AMT Tech Crew Chief Seniority will be required to meet the qualifications listed in Article 8, Qualifications. Hey, I forgot to mention there's Raleigh. Raleigh Reeves, president of 567, is on with me to try to make sure that I don't miss anything or say it wrong too. So Raleigh, I appreciate you being on. One is the same as the inspectors. You got to go look at the qualifications if you do not hold seniority in that classification that you're in and that you're bidding on. So 2, employees who do not hold AMT Tech Crew Chief seniority at the time of a vacancy who meet the qualifications in Article 8 shall advance to an interview by a panel interview committee that will be comprised of an equal number of members selected by association in the company. The association shall establish and maintain a list of members for each company designated location to serve on the panel interview committee for each vacancy, sufficient to ensure that there are no delays in the panel interview process. The company and union will mutually agree to establish a standard minimum passing score, which will be applied to all candidates seeking the vacancy. Each member of the committee will score the candidate's interview results on a numerical scale. Each committee member score will be totaled in the average to establish the candidate's total score. Panel interview scores will maintain valid. Panel interview scores will remain valid for 1 year. The senior candidate utilizing basic classification seniority who meets the minimum passing score from the panel interview will be selected by the company. 3.
So I want to
Okay,
say
jump in there.
on that, the panel, right now it's 3 management, 2 union, and now it will be equal. So the management won't have an advantage in those interviews anymore.
Okay. 3, where there are 10 or more qualified candidates who do not hold AMT Tech Crew Chief seniority, the company may limit the interviews to the 10 most senior candidates, utilizing basic classification seniority in the following order. A, employees bidding the vacancy from the M&R collective bargaining agreement within the AMT Crew Chief, the AMT, and inspector classification. Employees first awarded number 4, employees first awarded an AMT Tech Crew Chief vacancy shall hold the job on a trial basis for a period of 90 workdays, excluding classroom, required for their position in order to demonstrate their ability to perform the required work, and will be subject to a 12-month stability period with the following exceptions. The inspectors do not have the 12-month stability period language. Employees in a stability period are not precluded from bidding on an M&R vacancy, which did not exist before on a shift in a shop, station, or location. What do you guys think that means? Employees in a stability period. So if you bid a tech crew chief job, you're in a stability period for.
So I take it that the stability period is kind of like a probationary period. But you are still able to bid out if another job comes available.
That's exactly
which we are not able to today.
Right now, you're locked from doing that.
So that means you still have a chance to go to a tech crew chief spot, even though you're doing the other one, like Marla said.
You can bid in other shops, a total different location or station. Currently, we're not able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that means? Why does it say which did not exist before on a shift?
Because if I bid something today and I've got it awarded to me,
And then
then another month comes along when I'm still on the stability period, I want to go to Chicago. I'm not locked out from doing that because of my stability period. I'm not
I
locked from doing that.
So I bid the seat shop for a tech crew chief job. 2 weeks later, in the engine world, a tech crew chief job. Well, I really want that engine tech crew chief. Now I can bid that even though I haven't completed my 90-day stability period.
What do you think it says on a shift?
On a shift, it's just what. So Does the IAM bid by shift? I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, that just seems odd that the
Right.
word on a shift is there. So I'm not for sure why that's there. I get in a shop, station, or location. So maybe it's saying on a shift because it's trying to include every possible scenario where a opening may be. It may be on a shift in a shop, station, or location. That just reads funny to me. Okay. B, employees who are bumped or displaced will not be subject to a stability period upon exercising seniority or being furloughed. That's pretty simple. Number 5, all employees first awarded an AMT technical crew chief vacancy will have their performance evaluated prior to the last day of the trial period. Employees who fail to meet will go back to their old job. D is the filling of tech crew chief vacancies. Number 1, AMT technical crew chief vacancies shall be awarded in the following order. Again, this is important. The senior employee working as an AMT tech crew chief in the same specialty as the vacancies. Who bids the vacancy from another bid area? What do you guys think specialty means?
I would think the same type of work.
If you're a tech crew chief in a shop, is that the same specialty as a tech crew chief out in AO?
I would say no.
That question's been asked, and I have not heard. I have not heard anyone define that to make me feel confident that that's the correct answer. So
I read it as if you're a tech crew chief in the seat shop. You're not in the same specialty as a tech crew chief in wide body AO. That's my interpretation of it.
So it says a senior employee working as an AMT tech crew chief in the same specialty as the vacancy, who bids the vacancy from another bid area or station.
Right.
So
read number 2
B.
or read
Read
B.
B.
the senior employee working as an AMT tech crew chief who bids the vacancy from another specialty and is successful in the interview process above. So I want to go back over to B, filling of vacancies for inspectors. A is the senior employee working as an inspector who bids the vacancy from another bid area. And B is the senior employee utilizing AMT, so it goes right into folks that aren't an inspector. But A, they are assuming that all inspectors are the same, which here we know they're not. Okay, back to crew chiefs. The senior employee working as a tech crew chief who bids from another specialty and is successful in the interview process. C, senior employee who holds AMT tech crew chief seniority but is working in another classification with the M&R collective bargaining agreement who meets the quals and is successful in the interview process. D, the senior employee utilizing AMT basic classification seniority working as an inspector, AMT crew chief bidding the vacancy who meets the qual and is successful in the interview process above. E, the senior employee who holds AMT tech crew chief seniority but is working in another classification with another association agreement who meets the qualifications and is successful in the interview process above. 2, as of date of ratification, a tech crew chief who works within a specialty is not subject to the interview process for the same specialty. Questions or comments? We'll move on. Anybody?
It's
Okay.
been silent.
All right. E, AMT crew chiefs, formerly known as leads for Legacy U.S. Airways. AMT crew chief vacancies. 1, candidate for AMT crew chief vacancy who do not hold AMT crew chief seniority will be required to meet the qual listed in Article 8. The qualification interview process below will not apply to any employee who is currently working or has previously worked as a permanent AMT lead or crew chief or had previously passed the minimum score in a crew chief interview as described in paragraph E2 below. I'll read that again from the middle. The qualification and the interview process below will not apply to any employee who is currently working or has previously worked as a permanent AMT lead or crew chief or had previously passed the minimum score. So what does that mean for people? And we may have to read E2. What does that mean for people that interviewed prior to this contract if it gets ratified? We have people that go take the test, get the score. Are they gonna count those going forward? Any comments?
That you would have to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's read 2. I mean, we have people that was crew chief 10 years ago here in Tulsa. They're just currently not.
And give them, they turn in their wings.
Yeah. All right. 2, employees who do not hold AMT crew chief seniority or never previously worked as a permanent crew chief. So we have people that don't have it, but have, or had not previously passed the minimum score in a crew chief interview as described herein at the time of vacancy, who meet the qualifications in 8, shall advance to an interview by a panel interview committee that will be comprised of an equal number of members selected by association. The company association shall establish and maintain a list of members for each company, designated the location to serve on the panel. And all of that reads except for the tech crew chief for a tech crew chief, your panel score remains valid for 1 year. And for crew chief, your panel interview score will remain valid for 24 months, obviously 2 years. And number 3, where there are 10 or more qualified candidates who do not hold AMT, they're going to take 10. It says what classification order they're going to come out of. 4, that's the stability period. And A and B reads the same as a tech crew chief. You can still bid for another job. 5, all employees first awarded an AMT crew chief vacancy will have their performance evaluated prior to last day. That's the same. All right. Then filling of AMT crew chief vacancies. AMT crew chief vacancies shall be awarded in the following order. Senior employee working as an AMT crew chief who bids the vacancy from another bid area or station. The senior employee who previously worked as an AMT crew chief who bids the vacancy from a tech crew chief, AMT, and inspector classification. Senior employee utilizing AMT basic classification seniority working as an inspector, AMT tech crew chief bidding the vacancy who meet the qual is successful in the interview process as described above. The senior employee utilizing basic classification seniority bidding the vacancy from M&R agreement who holds AMT seniority but is working in another classification who meets the quals and is successful in the interview process as described above. E, the senior employee utilizing basic classification seniority bidding the vacancy from the M&R collective bargaining agreement who does not hold AMT seniority but is working in another classification, meets the quals, and is successful in the interview. Senior employee bidding the vacancy from another association agreement that holds AMT seniority or employees in a stability period who meet the qual, successful in the interview process. Senior employee bidding the vacancy from another association agreement who meet the qualification and is successful in the interview process as described above. The earliest basic classification seniority date will be used to determine who is senior for the purpose of awarding the vacancy. So, and then H, any other employee or new hire. So in these, this ordering of who gets first shot at it, I believe that you have to understand that if you have a score, if you've gone through the panel and you have a score, that score gets you ranked in each step of the order of who gets a shot at it. So you have to go get the score. You have to go to the interview process. If you get a score and then you continue to bid, it doesn't give you the right to advance past your order of how you get considered for the job. So if you are like in D, a senior employee utilizing AMT basic classification seniority bidding the vacancy from an M&R collective bargaining agreement who holds AMT seniority but is working in another classification. So you only use your score to compete. It's really not that. It's after you pass the minimum score, then it's your seniority. Is that right, Marla?
Do you want now?
After you get your score, then it's your seniority within this grouping.
Correct.
I mean your seniority
That's
date.
how I read it.
Yeah.
So you have to have the passing qualification score,
Score.
and then the highest senior is awarded that job.
Yeah. Okay. Out of that grouping.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Whoever bid it. Yeah.
Candidates, AMT vacancies. Candidates for an AMT vacancy who do not hold AMT seniority will be required to meet the qual in 8. Employees first awarded AMT vacancies shall be on trial. That's all the same. And then have your performance evaluated prior to the last day of the trial period. That's the same. AMT filling of vacancies. I'm not going to read them all. I'm going to look through here to see if something stands out. So in B, the senior employee from the following grouping. Employee who bids the vacancy and is working as an AMT in another bid area or station. AMT employee who has this station designated. Automatic bid on file as the recall station if on furlough status, Article 12. An AMT employee who is on furlough and bids the vacancy from another station. So I think the rest of these are going to have B, where it talks about if you have recall rights or if you have recall rights to the station where the vacancy is at, or if you've been furloughed from another station, you get to fall into the order of B as the second shot at the vacancy. C, the senior employee utilizing AMT basic classification seniority working as a tech crew chief, AMT crew chief or inspector bidding the vacancy who meets the quals. And then the rest of them, D, E, F, G, and H kind of just line up like the others that we've looked at. OSM vacancies. Got to read the quals in Article 8, see what it takes to get the job. There's a stability period, performance evaluation, just like the others. OSM vacancies were awarded in the following order. And I'm looking, you see anything different there, Marla or Kendall? They kind of look the same to me, kind of line up like the others.
They all line up pretty much the same.
Cleaner crew chief vacancies, got to be qualified. Talks about it just like the other crew chiefs. If you have seniority at the time of the vacancy, you meet the quals. Stability periods, still bid out to other jobs. Filling of cleaner crew chief vacancies. And it looks they all in order, the bidding order, same as the others. Cleaner vacancies, talks about the cleaner seniority. You got to be qualified. There's a stability period, performance evaluation. Okay, filling cleaner vacancies. Nothing jumps out at me there. On to GSC, facilities maintenance tech crew chief
Can I stop you
vacancy.
for just a moment?
Yes, you can stop me whenever you don't
So
like.
Jeff Sheds asked a question about transferring into an IAM territory.
Right.
After the date of ratification, he'll be able to do so, correct? Or is there a waiting period?
I don't know of any. Yeah. Like in crew chief, we read that yesterday. You know, the classifications says whatever positions we'll need it will be posted immediately, and we'll all have the same bidding rights to it.
I just wanted to make sure before
Yep.
we answered it. Thank you.
So GSC facilities maintenance tech crew chief vacancies. Tech crew chief, so it's score's good for 1 year. Stability periods, rights to bid out, just like the other tech crew chiefs, the AMT tech crew chiefs. Filling a GSC tech crew chief vacancies. It lists the order there, those working, and then the order of if you've previously worked in that classification, and then those that haven't worked in the classification, the order of that. Filling of vacancies, maintenance tech crew chief, facilities maintenance tech crew chief. I'm just going down through here, seeing if something stands out different from any of the others, and I don't see that. They have the specialty clauses just like the AMT tech crew chief, where if you're in the specialty or not in the specialty. Filling of vacancies for the facilities maintenance crew chief. Looks the same. 24 months, just like the AMT crew chiefs. For your score is good for 24 months. If 10 or more are qualified and do not hold GSE seniority, we'll limit the interviews to 10. There's the list of the order of that. That's the same. Filling of GSE crew chief maintenance vacancies. So the order of who gets first shot at it, second, third, fourth, fifth, and on down the line. That's lined up the same. And filling of crew chief maintenance vacancies, ordered in the order. Oh, that's what I was talking about. That's the same. GSC maintenance mechanic vacancies. Filling of the vacancy. There is a note here. So on the filling of GSE maintenance mechanic vacancies, if you go to C, the senior employee utilizing GSE basic classification seniority who is working as a GSE maintenance tech crew chief or GSE maintenance crew chief bidding the vacancy. And then down at the bottom of filling of the vacancy for that position, it says, note, including employees working as dual qualified mechanic or crew chief. A little bit of a difference there. Facilities maintenance mechanic vacancies. Talks about who can. Stability period, that's the same. Performance evaluation, that's the same. Then the order in which they will be awarded. It has the asterisk note in there about the dual qualified mechanic crew chief. Looks the same to me. Anybody see anything different? MSP, GSE vacancies. Talks about candidates for MSP vacancy who do not hold GSE or facilities maintenance seniority. You got to go to the qualifications listed in Article 8. Filling of the vacancy. Those all line up the same as the other classifications, the order. MSP facilities vacancies. That's all lined up the same. The filling of the vacancy, which is the order of who gets the shot at it. And then it talks about down here at the bottom, failure to pass his trial period shall restrict an employee from bidding into the respective classification for 6 months. And if you fail again in the second attempt, you will not be eligible to bid for 12 months. And you have to demonstrate that you're trying to require the knowledge and skills to enable yourself to pass the trial period. And then prior to the third attempt and the fourth attempt, you have to, on an annual basis, show that you're trying to require the knowledge and skills to be able to get past the trial period. Temporary crew chief. All right. We got through all the bids. This is temporary crew chief. The company may temporarily, i.e. 30 work days or less, upgrade a mechanic or to inspector or crew chief on the basis of seniority on the crew within one of the following, if one of the following conditions exist. When the company is unable to secure overtime within 2 hours of the absent employee's shift start time. For new jobs not expected to last more than 30 work days. Permanent vacancies in the inspector or crew chief classification, i.e. upgrading during the bidding period. Cleaners may be upgraded to crew chiefs in their classification under the same conditions as above. Number 2, upgraded employees will receive a minimum 8 hours pay at the applicable rate for the higher classification. If the senior employee declines the job, the next senior employee and down the roster will be offered the job. It is understood that employees who are upgraded will not work overtime in higher classification if a permanent inspector or crew chief is available for overtime. In number 3, in the event that all employees refuse the upgrade, the supervisor may lead, direct, and assign those employees who are in excess of the crew chief to basic classification ratio. For at the base, it's 4 to 16. However, the supervisor's involvement is limited to foregoing, and he is prohibited from performing productive work. A temp crew chief may be selected for a known vacancy of limited duration lasting from 30 to 90 days. The temporary crew chief position will be selected from candidates within the basic classification and station where the vacancy exists. The selection of the temporary crew chief will be the same process as posted crew chief vacancy. A, at the completion of the temporary assignment, the employee will be returned to his former basic classification and bid area. Anything there? No questions? Good.
No, but I was just going to go back just to reiterate that if you are a temporary crew chief, you are not asked for overtime unless there is nobody else available. So that's a big deal for some people. Just because you're temporary doesn't mean you're on the crew chief overtime list.
Right. Do you still get proffered back in your basic classification?
Yes, but you are last asked
Okay.
as a crew chief.
James Rainier asked a question. Who would have seniority after date of DOR? Date of
Ratification.
the ratification. A crew chief that currently has crew chief seniority, but not company seniority over another crew chief. It's a crew chief that has seniority, currently has crew chief seniority,
So
but
crew chief-
not company seniority
Crew chief
over another.
goes by op, not company right now. It'll be the same
In the contract.
In the new contract, it's all occupational. Correct?
His question is, we've got 2 crew chiefs. Now read the question.
It's the crew chief that has crew chief seniority,
Yep.
but not company seniority over another crew chief.
So I guess,
He doesn't have company seniority. Let's say he's been here 2 years and he has 6 months more seniority as a crew chief.
It
so
also depends if it's on the Javits list.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Read his question again. It's confusing to me.
Basically, he's talking about a crew chief that may have more crew chief time
Yes.
than another crew chief that doesn't have as much seniority.
Right.
I'm sorry, that has more seniority, like 40 years, 30 years seniority, but has only been a crew chief for 6 months.
But his question is, what's their time going to be used for? I mean, if you have crew chief time, if you
Yes.
have the
Yeah.
one that has more crew chief time is going to get to bid his shift and days off. Vacations lined up with company time, so you bid your vacation with your company time on the shift that you're on. Your shift is determined by your crew chief time. Your crew chief time above the Javits line, those folks, their OC time, even though it may be less OC time than the guy that's got 40 years company time, the 40-year company guy that's a new crew chief is going to get, he's not going to pick his shift and days off over the guy with less time that has Javits time, but he's going to get to pick his vacation if he's on the same shift prior to that guy. So that's why I say it's probably confusing for you guys out there, and you have to really, we have to ask, when you ask a question, I probably have to ask 2 or 3 questions to be able to answer it. So I apologize for that. Okay.
I have 2 more questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Entertain.
Yeah.
This is Guitar Hillbilly wants to know. This might be some of your kin, brother.
It probably is.
Can we bid across job qualifications and keep accruing seniority in our previous classification?
Once you leave a classification, if this is ratified going forward, that's a seniority string that never stops. So if you're in MLS and you leave MLS because you want to go be a mechanic, your MLS time will continue to grow. You'll go be a mechanic, but if you ever want to come back to an MLS, you have to fall in this order, this ranked order of who gets first shot at the MLS job. So the MLS, the folks that's in MLS, if that's a basic classification vacancy, those folks in that basic classification get first shot at the vacancy. And then the order of where you're at, so you would have been a AMT, you're in, not even in the same M&R agreement, it's a different book. So you have to find where you fall. You're in an association agreement as an AMT. You want to go back to the MLS, you use your MLS seniority within that grouping to compete for that vacancy. But the question is, you do not lose your string of where you've been going forward. You have to have that to compete for the opening within your grouping. Other question? There was another question.
There is one more from David Murphy. It says, can a temporary crew chief work as a crew chief and work the bench on the same day?
You understand that, Marla?
Well, I think he's asking if someone's filling in as a temp crew chief, can he go to work out on the floor? If he's actually crew chiefing, can he work as a? I would say no.
No, I agree with Marla.
If
If
you
he's-
take the crew chief job that they need to fill a vacancy, I would say that you're working.
Crew chief.
I think there's something in here that talks about working crew chiefs. So we don't do working crew chiefs here in Tulsa. And I wouldn't think that if he's going to take a temp crew chief job, that he would be asked or required to go out on the floor and work, because he's doing.
Right, because there
Crew
is
chief
language if there's multiple crew chiefs, they
Yes.
can ask the lower senior to go to work on the floor. But if you're a temporary crew chief, obviously there's not a crew chief available.
That's right. You're filling a
My
yes.
opinion.
Yes, you're filling a void.
Right.
Okay. So is that it, Al?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Temporary transfer provision. No employee will be forced into a permanent or temporary transfer outside of his station. The company shall solicit volunteers in seniority order to work another bid area within their station for which they are qualified. In the event of insufficient volunteers, the company will assign employees in inverse seniority order. Such assignment can only be to a shift with a start time with 1 hour of their scheduled start time and not to exceed a period of 28 workdays. The needs of service shall dictate when transfers shall be made, and no arbitrary transfers shall be effected. If there is a need for an extension beyond the 28 workdays, the company and the IM General Chair / TW Local President must mutually agree on the terms of the extension. For transfers in excess of 1 full shift, employees shall receive written notice of the expected duration of the transfer. 3, when the company determines that there is a surplus of employees in one bid area or more and a corresponding shortage in another area within the Tulsa base, based on the needs of service, the company may reallocate manpower utilizing a local realignment. In the event of such realignment, the company will first solicit volunteers from the bid area with the overage to fill those needed positions in the bid area where the shortage exists in seniority order. In the event there are insufficient volunteers, the remaining openings will be filled in seniority order from those junior employees in the bid area with the surplus to the bid area where the shortage exists. 4, in the event an employee is temporarily transferred in accordance with paragraph FF2 of this article to a bid area that provides a premium, example, a line premium, the employee will receive such premium for the duration of temporary transfer. Good. Do I need to explain any of that?
I think that falls pretty much in line with what we do today.
Without 3, and we have so many docks and lines going and mods and airplanes coming in and going out that if they brought a mod into a hangar and it was going to last for just a short period of time and the mod was accomplished, then what would you do with those people that were there? And maybe a mod was coming into a different bid area. Without 3, what would happen was there would be openings in an area where the new mod was coming in and no way to take the guys in the current mod that just completed. There would be no way to guarantee that they would be the successful bidders over in the other hangar. It may be that everybody come from out of state somewhere to fill those positions, and then the existing people at the dock that finished their mod, then where would they go? Then they would have to look to backfill the vacancies out in the system somewhere else. So with a large workforce and mod lines and light C checks and just converting from one type of work to another, there had to be a way to move people in and out of these different bid areas, and that's what paragraph 3 allows for. All right, here's specialties. So we talked about specialties earlier. Specialties. AMT Tech Crew Chief specialties are as follows: systems, structures, general, landing gear, avionics, power plant. So if you're a tech crew chief in the seat shop, you might be considered what? I don't know. General? Structures? But I'm sure that that'll be a conversation that comes up and we'll find out where that placement is. But that's where you'll bid. If you bid another tech crew chief job, you bid in and out of your specialty. All right, GSE Tech Crew Chief. There's your specialty. 1, GSE Tech Crew Chief. Facilities Tech Crew Chiefs. And it lists them: HVAC, jet bridge, central utility plant, fire, paint, general, bag room, 400 hertz, electric, millwright, plumber, welder, electrician, electronics, boiler room. Facilities specialties are as follows: carpenter, electrician, electronics, HVAC, lock and key, millwright, painter, plumber, stationary operating engineer, welder, industrial waste treatment, hazardous waste. Senior quality assurance auditor. I'm not going to cover the auditors, or filling of the auditor vacancies, quality assurance auditors, filling of those vacancies. If any of those positions are of interest to you, you can read up on those. And if you have questions, because it's not something that we at the on the TWU side are we're not tasked to represent these positions, and therefore we don't have a lot of history, so we don't know a lot about them. But if there's a question that somebody wants to try to find out more about them, we'll be more than willing to contact our IAM guys that we know that represent those positions and classifications and get you some answers. So I'm still turning my page here. Filling senior maintenance planner vacancies, maintenance planner, filling maintenance planner vacancies. And I'm getting back to page 75, back to something that's common to all of them. Bid and award process. So this is a change as well. The process for identifying and awarding vacancies will be conducted on a weekly cycle as follows for all applicable classifications. On Saturday of each week at 00:01 Central Standard Time, the company will post an online notification list of the station location shops declaring vacancies for that week. Are we all in agreement that's 1 minute after midnight?
Yes.
On Saturday of each week. So is that Saturday morning at 12:01? Right?
That's the way I understand it.
All right. Marta, Saturday morning at 12:01?
Sunday midnight. Correct.
On Saturday of each week, and that's why I'm going to get a consensus before we move forward in this room. On Saturday of each week at 00:01 Central Standard Time. Because if that was Sunday, it would say Sunday at, because Saturday starts 1 minute after midnight. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So,
Yeah. I'm lost. I'm sorry.
that's okay.
75.
75. I know you was doing something, but
That's what he did.
no.
I was talking to people on the.
I know he was helping.
Okay.
Saturday at, I just want to make sure that we
Right.
stop and get it, because this is change.
I had read this last night and I thought you were talking about work weeks. I apologize.
Okay, no, it's okay. This is a change though. So Saturday, 1 minute after midnight on Saturday, they will post online the vacancies of where they're located at. The list will include the actual number of declared vacancies. The transfer list standing will be dynamic during the week and will be shown via the online tool in seniority order. The transfer list for those listed vacancies will be closed on the following Tuesday at 23:59 Central Standard Time, and a snapshot of the list will be taken at that time. So it opens up 1 minute into Saturday, and it closes the last minute of Tuesday. The employee may add or remove his standing transfer request or change the order of preference anytime during the above time frame. And there it's listed again. Saturday, 1 minute into Saturday, the last minute of Tuesday. All necessary paperwork, example work experience review form, and supporting documents will be required to be complete online prior to the vacancy being awarded. Employees will have 7 days after the posting closes, Thursday at 23:59 Central Standard Time, to provide the necessary paperwork. Note, employees do not have to wait until the posting closes. They may send the documents at the time that they add their name to the transfer list. Employees without paperwork will not be considered qualified and will not be awarded. Employees with incomplete paperwork who do not meet the experience requirements as determined by the WER panel will not be considered qualified and will not be awarded. H, any employee whose name appears on the list after Tuesday, the last minute of Tuesday, 23:59 Central Standard Time, may refuse to transfer by removing his name from the list by Thursday at 23:59. If the employee does not remove his name from the list during the 48-hour period and is awarded a vacancy, he will be considered to have accepted the position. The employee will be notified during JetNet sign-in of the final award. Employees will also be sent an email notification to their aa.com email address. Once the final award has been posted and employee notified by JetNet, the company cannot subsequently rescind the award. The employee must report to the station award on specific date unless mutually agreed by the company and the union. And that's filling of vacancies. Any other questions?
We have a question.
Go ahead.
Jay Golden asked, are they doing away with avionics and AO?
Well, are they doing away with avionics in AO?
Not really on the filling of vacancies, but
I sent it to Kinnaman.
so you did. Okay.
There's still going to be avionics work, whether it's a separate bid area or not is what's in question. Is that right, Marla?
Yes.
Because right now it's generals, right? They're all general.
It's all AMT work.
AMP general. Any other questions coming in?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I think the James Rainier one is being handled by Travis.
Okay.
So I'm not too worried about it. It's more of a licensing issue like qualifications. James Gardner was asking about 12.1 about openings in the business unit. Will it just be in the BU or will it go base wide?
So on James' question, if you look at bullet point FF3,
What page?
63,
Page 63.
the company may relocate manpower using a local realignment. What I read to that is not going to be the business unit, but it's not going to be system. It's going to be locally. They can move people locally
Oh, yeah.
anywhere on the base, James. That's how I read that.
Yeah. And without the ability to do that, they would post vacancies. They would have an overage in an area. They'd have a vacancy somewhere else on the base. The vacancy would be put out to the system, and you would have to compete to move 10 feet across an aisle into a different bid area with people from all over the system, Chicago, JFK. And if they were awarded the vacancy over a local guy, what would happen? You'd be sitting in Tulsa with nowhere to go except outside of Tulsa. So 3 allows us to move guys around by seniority order, those bidding in seniority order, if they want to go. If not, they'll move inverse with junior employees. Is there any other question? Al?
No good. We're all good, sir.
I'm yawning. I need a cup of coffee. Sorry, guys. Sorry for yawning so much. Hey, what are we covering next? Rebids?
14.
Hours of service, Article
Oh,
14.
that's right. 14 hours of service. So we're going to do that when, Al?
11:30.
All right.
Sorry, Al.
Don't be sorry. I'm around here, sir.
So 11:30 we'll cover hours of service, and that also just falls right in line with the rest of Article 14. It's hours of service, rebids, 14.1, 14.2 realignment, 14.3 absent from duty. And so we'll get into that in a little bit. I appreciate those that tuned in and asked your questions. If you watch or you're going to watch this video at a later date and you have some questions, just please get a hold of me at 918-636-6089. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. That'll help us be able to have more options to bring this
So
to
James
you.
is asking, it's more about the moving. So he's asking if it's a permanent move, and no, it's not a permanent move. Correct? On the FF3, it's when they have need in one area, they move, it's like what we would call today a labor loan.
Well, no, because labor loan was the 28-day one.
Right, but I mean.
Three,
In the past, we've had 7-day labor loans.
yes.
Etc.
Yep.
So that it's not a permanent move on on the.
On 3, I believe it is. I'll read it again. When the company determines that there is a surplus of employees in one bid area, so you're working in hangar 1, 2, 3, and 4 complex, and you finished a line, or there was a heavy C check that ran out, you finished that in one bid area or more, and a corresponding shortage in another bid area within the Tulsa base. So now they're going to bring a 777 into hangar 6, and they are looking at where all the rest of 5 and 6 is working. So they're going to bring an airplane in. Where they're going to get the head count from. Based on the needs of service, the company may reallocate manpower utilizing a local realignment. In the event of such realignment, the company will first solicit volunteers from the bid area with the overage to fill the needed positions in the bid area, so where the shortage exists in seniority order. So then hangar 1, 2, and 3, and 4, they finished a heavy C check on a 737. They're going to bring a 777 into 5 or 6. I'm sorry, into 6. Got nobody in the 5 and 6 complex to man it with, but they got this line that's shutting down with seniority order picking. Those guys can move over to there in seniority order. In the event there are insufficient volunteers, the remaining openings will be filled in seniority order from those junior employees in the bid area with the surplus to the bid area where the shortage exists. So that will be your new bid area that you report to. In here somewhere, Marla, there was the labor loan temporary transfer provision. Oh, it's above it. The company shall solicit. Okay, temporary transfer provision. No employee will be forced into a permanent
That's why I don't think it's permanent.
a permanent or temporary transfer outside of his station. Outside of his station. This 3 allows you to be inside.
Okay.
And then 2, the company shall solicit volunteers in seniority order to work another bid area with their station for which they are qualified. In the event of such volunteers, the company will assign employees in inverse seniority order. Such assignment can only be to a shift with a start time with 1 hour of their scheduled start time and not to exceed a period of 28 work days. So that's the temporary.
Okay.
3 is you're being
surplus.
moved. Yeah, you're being surplus from one to another area. I had to question this and then decided that without it, with the way that we're going to go live with all over the nation with openings, without 3, and as much as we pick up and shut down here in Tulsa, you would stand a chance of not having a job here because of your seniority. So, is there other questions? Al?
I have a
Yes.
comment to make.
Yes, ma'am.
One thing I hope that everybody's paying attention to in that temporary crew chief,
Yep.
in the event that all qualified employees refuse the upgrade, a supervisor may lead, direct, and assign those employees who are in excess of the crew chief to the basic classification on MLS.
Mhm.
And that's on page 22 in the MLS article 9, filling of vacancies. So what I want to do is encourage them to be an acting crew chief, or we are going to give that ability over to a supervisor. I'm going to read it one more time, Dale. Page 22, number 3. In the event that all qualified employees refuse the upgrade, the supervisor may lead, direct, and assign those employees who are in excess of the crew chief to basic classification ratio. However, the supervisor's involvement is limited to the foregoing, and he is prohibited from performing productive work. So I just want to encourage people to read this. Obviously, there's some little language in there that's new, and we want our workers to be directing the crew. So don't be scared to step into those acting crew chief roles.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I've opened up my MLS book, Article 17, filling of vacancies. And if Linda will do a page turn with me, we'll look for differences.
Mhm.
But
Is that one of differences from you all? Do you have that in yours?
Yeah, it's in
Okay.
there too. It's in there.
Everything else, page turn.
So Article 9, filling of vacancies for the material logistics specialist. First starts off with tech crew chief vacancies. It reads, what I'm seeing reads the same.
Yes, it
If you
does.
don't have a test, to go to the review panel and you get a score and it remains valid for 1 year. You still have the 12-month stability period and the performance review. And then filling of MLS tech crew chief vacancies that has the order of who gets to compete at what level.
Mhm.
MLS crew chiefs, if you're not currently a crew chief, you got to go and see what the qualifications are in Article 8.
And if you are now or have been in the past, you will not have to do the skills test.
Yep.
I had someone text me that question a while ago.
Candidates must score 70 or
70 or
above.
above.
Was that listed in the M&R book, Marla? The score?
The score, it says it's agreed upon the union and the company.
That's the difference. That's the
Yeah.
difference.
That is different because we do have a
Ours is
score.
70 or above.
Right.
See, ours 70% is what yours says.
Yeah.
Yep.
The stability period.
It's the same.
Yeah. Performance evaluation. Order of filling the MLS crew chief positions. Then MLS vacancy. Go to the qualifications, see what they are.
Mm-hmm. Same.
You have a trial period and a performance evaluation.
And obviously, with the filling of the MLS vacancy, any employee who bids a vacancy is working as MLS in another bid area or station.
Yep.
So again, it goes to the system.
Yep.
Same thing.
And then it talks about bidding restrictions if you fail to pass the test, and that's the same
Same.
requirements. Wait 6 months. You fail the second one, you have to wait 12, and then you have to show that you're trying to gain the skills required to pass the trial period.
Yep.
Temp crew chief, 30 days. If they can not get a guy to fill, the company is unable to secure overtime within 2 hours off the crew chief list, they can get a temporary. All that looks the same.
Yep.
Get 8 hours of pay. In the event everyone refuses, the supervisors, what Linda was talking about, they can supervise. Temporary transfer provision. There's the 28-day language.
Yep.
There's the number 3, the Tulsa language of surplus employees, so one bid area to another. That's the same. Bid and award process. That's the same. They post it on Saturday.
Yep.
1 minute after midnight. Close it a minute before Wednesday. You have 48 hours. Get an ad, take your name off. All that's the same. So
Tuesday.
the bid and award, yeah,
Tuesday.
the last minute of Tuesday.
And then it goes into obviously the AOG and material planner, which is new for
Yeah.
us because now we are all in the same work group.
Yep.
And then they can read that, for themselves on page 24, 25, and 26. If they have any questions, they're always available to call me and we'll go over that if this is ratified.
And that's it for Article 9, filling of vacancies for MLS. It's once you understand one, it's pretty much cookie cutter for the rest of them. Al, any questions come in?
We're good. Covered
Okay.
them all.
Any comments, Kendall, Marta,
No, I'm good.
Linda?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for those that tuned in and watched it live and asked your questions. I appreciate that. Helps all of us. We would like for you to always subscribe to this YouTube channel and maybe call your senators and congressmen and tell them to get off their ASSs and get something passed because this coronavirus is continuing to get worse, not better. A lot of people are going to be in some tough times. we'll get back on here at 11:30 and we'll cover hours of service. So appreciate you guys and gals. Y'all have a nice day. See you in a little bit.